HARK, we are here. It is time for part 2 of this 4-video series of Regroup phase for the previews that I missed while I was on vacation. We've got creator previews from the first week of stuff that I missed right up. Lots of cool cards, lots of cool designs, some things that mesh with leaders we've seen, some things that mesh with leaders we haven't seen yet. Lots of cool things to go through, so let's get right to it. Our first 2 previews of this video come by way of Never Board Gaming. Link in the description below to their preview. We've got a space unit and a ground unit. This space unit is very interesting, so let's get started with that. We have here Obi-Wan's Aether Sprite. This is why I hate flying. This is a 5-cost Vigilance Heroism space unit, 4 power, 6 health, Jedi Republic vehicle fighter. When played and on attack, you may deal 1 damage to this unit and 2 damage to another space unit. This is an uncommon number 48 out of 257 in TWI. Obi-Wan's Aether Sprite works very well with Obi-Wan himself. When you play this unit, you can deal this unit a damage and then deal 2 damage to another space unit, so long as there is a space unit on the board. And then you can use Obi-Wan's leader ability in order to be able to heal that damage off of the Aether Sprite. I like this design a lot, especially that it's a 4/6. It means it can take a couple points of damage before it becomes threatened by other ships in the arena. And you could also knock out those other annoying units with your abilities. You wouldn't be able to knock out a TIE Phantom with this, but you could knock out a TIE Fighter or the TIE Advanced or a Kylo's TIE Silencer. Lots of other interesting things that will die to 2 damage, and you can stack up the damage on that Space Sentinel that you don't necessarily want to be attacking into. Although, if you do, you can actually end up doing a lot of damage with the Aether Sprite in addition to its attack itself. So, really cool card. I think this is going to see a lot of play in Obi-Wan. Might see some play in either Jedi or Republic decks that have a space presence if we get some extra benefits for Jedi space units or Republic space units, with this being both as Vigilance. So fun card, should be interesting going forward. Our second preview from Never Board Gaming is a very interesting design choice. Let's check it out. We have here Royal Guard Attaché, a 2-cost Vigilance ground unit, 2 power, 5 health, Naboo, new trait, Trooper trait. When played, deal 2 damage to this unit. This is a common number 59 out of 257 in TWI. This was previewed along the same day as Obi-Wan himself because it goes very well with him. You can heal the damage on the attaché and it becomes a 2/4 on when the turn it's played, round it's played technically, and hopefully you can get that extra heal to be able to do that. Otherwise, a 2-cost 2/3 isn't really that much to write home about. You can try to stack up some extra defense on this to keep it healthy. If you can somehow get grit onto it, that can end up being really neat. But overall, this is a really weird card with a weird place in the meta. You don't really want to use it in Grand Inquisitor because it's not really doing too much for you in terms of attacks. And it doesn't get any benefits for having damage on it. So I'm not entirely sure what the purpose of this card is other than just a draft common to be able to play if you don't have any other 2-cost units to be able to drop. We'll have to see if it meshes with anything else. Naboo trait, though, kind of interesting. Hopefully we can see like a Starfighter or maybe some of those pilots showing up. Captain Typho should also have Naboo, but we're not entirely sure. Should be interesting to see what this card does going forward. Next up, an iconic preview from Golden Dice Podcast. Link in the description below. We have here, hello there. This is a 3-cost Vigilance Heroism trick event. Choose a unit that entered play this phase. It gets -4/-4 for this phase. This is an uncommon number 52 out of 257 in TWI. This is a very interesting card that requires you to be very particular with when you're going to play it. On a leader flip turn, this is really good. This will delete Iden, this will delete Fennec, this will delete Kira from the board the second they flip, although Kira's already done most of the damage it's going to do. But ultimately, you're looking to be able to remove one of your opponent's units that's come into play that's going to be able to do something on the next turn, utilizing this to give it -4/-4 to either attack into it to finish off the remainder of its health or to clear it off the board if it has 4 health or less. I think my big thing about something like this is that the restriction of choose a unit that entered play this phase is not something, especially for its cost, is not a restriction that I think realistically should be there. If you want to give something -4/-4, just let it be at any point in time, even if because at 3 costs, I still don't think that that's busted. I think that's about an average, especially for the fact that Hello There itself is not propelling your board forward. It's just stifling your opponent's board. Needless to say, relatively interesting anti-leader tech, whether you're trying to stifle that leader for a turn or if you're trying to eliminate it off the board for those flip turns. Like I said, Fennec, Iden, Kira, very interesting way of being able to eliminate those without having to worry too much about the damage that they can do. But if your opponent's unit has already done what it needs done on the turn it comes into play, well, then hello there isn't really doing you much good anyway. So interesting card though, uncommon, may or may not see play. We'll see. Next up, we have a clone unit in Vigilance coming by way of Starlight Beacon Transmissions, link in the description below. It's a very interesting card and might foretell what a leader in this set is going to look like. We have here Infantry of the 212, a 3-cost Vigilance ground unit, 2 power, 4 health, Republic clone, trooper traits, coordinate keyword with Sentinel keyword, so 2 other units in addition to this and you get a Sentinel unit. A common, number 61 out of 257 in TWI. Because this is Vigilance, we already know what the 2 command leaders are going to be for Heroism. It is highly likely that Cody ends up being Vigilance because the 212th is Cody's Legion. The fact that this is not Heroism just showcases that because sometimes the clones will play both sides, especially after Order 66, where they start shooting Jedi and then all of a sudden everything goes to hell because Palpatine is a jerk. Interesting unit. This is going to be very good in limited, draft, and sealed, specifically because coordinate is going to be much easier to stick in that format, in those formats, because removal will be at a premium in that. And we haven't really seen too much in terms of like targeted removal outside of a couple of cards in set 3. So this might even have the opportunity to stick even more in those environments. So pay attention to that as you're pulling your cards for draft or as you're putting together your pool for sealed, because I think this is going to be a really good card that sees a lot of play in those formats. Our next preview comes by way of Saga Space Arena Ground Arena, link in the description below. This is a big beefy boy. We have Separatist Super Tank, 9-cost command villainy ground unit, 8 power, 8 health, Separatist vehicle tank, exploit 3 common, number 87 out of 257 in TWI. Separatist Super Tank is a very interesting design because you're never going to play it for 9. Ever. If you're playing this for 9, there's a significant problem in your game plan. But because it does have exploit 3, which means you can defeat up to 3 units you control to reduce the cost of this by 2 for each unit, you can end up dropping this for a lowly 3 cost, so long as you sacrifice 3 units. Now, the Separatist strategy is going to be pumping out battle droids like crazy. Even if all you do is just play 1 battle droid escort, you can drop the cost of this by 4 to a 5 cost and still maintain an additional battle droid token after losing the battle droid escort. If the Separatist command villainy strategy does end up seeing a lot of play, this is probably going to be one of the bigger bombs that you end up seeing. It's just a big fat unit that drops onto the board that your opponent has to do something about, because constantly getting hit by an 8/8 is going to suck. We've seen it with other things. Vader being a 5/7 sucks to get hit with. Reinforcement Walker as a 6/9 sucks to get hit with. Big beefy boys suck to get hit with. And this is one of the beefier ones, but not the beefiest. And that's scary. Next up, we have a Heroism preview from Holocron Card Hub, link in the description below. This is one of my favorite arts that we've seen so far, and one of my favorite types of clone troopers that are in Star Wars Unlimited. We have Republic Commando, a 3-cost Heroism ground unit, 2 power, 5 health, Republic clone trooper, coordinate Saboteur, a common, number 243 out of 257 in TWI. Right off the bat, I think this is going to be a staple in Draft and Limited for Heroism, because it is in and of itself a 3-cost 2/5. Again, coordinate is going to stick more in Limited, so you're going to get that Saboteur. But even without Saboteur, 2/5 is not terrible stats to talk about when it comes to a 3-cost slot. It is Republic, it is Clone, it is Trooper, so it's going to mesh with anything you get. That's Heroism leaning towards that. We have the one that gives you an attack with the Republic unit at +2, so this becomes a 4/5 on that attack. There's probably going to be other things that give bonuses across the board. And again, with coordinate Saboteur, you can delete a shield, you can delete shields off a unit and get rid of that unit, or just bypass Sentinels, which are going to be plentiful, unfortunately, in this set, and go straight for the opponent's base. So Republic Commando, great art, fantastic card. I think this is going to see a lot of play, especially if coordinate ends up being really strong in constructed, which I've yet to see if that's going to be the case, but I'm hoping to be proven wrong. Next up, we have an aggression villainy card from Planning Phase Syndicate, link in the description below. This is a very interesting card for a generic card. We have here B1 attack platform, a 3-cost aggression villainy ground unit, 5 power, 2 health, Separatist droid trooper, no effect, a common, number 133 out of 257 in TWI. It's your basic 5 damage, try to throw this at something to blow up an opponent's unit, or just put that pressure on your opponent's base. It is easily deletable, but in combination with things that can potentially give this exploit, you can have this come out for much cheaper than 3. Effectively, you could bring it out for either 1 or 0, depending on how many units you choose to sacrifice or how much exploit you can stack onto this unit. But needless to say, this is a very interesting way of representing the STAP, single trooper aerial platform. And I do like it a lot in the way that it looks and the way that it's presented in the game. 5-2. Interesting stats. It's going to get cleared off the board very quickly, but if you can get that unit out, take the initiative, and then attack with it on the next turn, it's going to be a pretty cool way of being able to utilize your separatists and your droids and your troopers in a deck that wants to use one or all of those. And realistically, it's a common, so you're going to see it a lot in limited, and it's probably a decent card to play. Next up, we have an aggression villainy preview by way of KTOD, link in the description below. We have here Savage Oppress Monster, 7 cost aggression villainy ground units, 7 power, 7 health, force, night, and underworld traits. When played, if you control fewer units than an opponent, ready this unit. That includes this unit. Uncommon, number 137 out of 257 in TWI. Savage Oppress, here to slaughter your opponents. Combos nicely with Maul in order to be able to get that extra damage in with the Overwhelm. Also technically combos with Unit Maul. You can give Savage Oppress the damage itself and then use them to slam into something else. Regardless, your opponent needs more units than you in order to be able to keep this readied. There's a couple of different combos you can work with. It'll be interesting to see how this works, but I imagine this is a card that slots as a 3 of in every single aggression Maul deck that you're going to play, because why not? Night as a trait is going to be something interesting to observe going forward. Hopefully the Night Sisters, the Ventresses, other Night Brothers that might exist, and other potential characters in the future maintain this trait even if it doesn't do anything, because trait synergy is cool. Savage Oppress is a monster. Next up, we have a card coming by way of Thorrk's Hot Takes, link in the description below. This is a cunning event, and it has an art that haunts the dreams and nightmares of people around the world. We have here Unnatural Life, a 3-cost cunning villainy force event. Play a unit that was defeated this phase from your discard pile. It costs 2 less and enters play ready. At the start of the regroup phase, defeat it. This is a rare, number 189 out of 257 in TWI. We have that Spider Maul art here that is genuinely horrifying. It's good art, but it's horrifying, and represents basically what this character was in the couple of episodes that this version of him popped up. Playing a unit that was defeated can be very good, but it has that same restriction as Hello There, where it's kind of weird in what it does. But if you are able to, if you have all your resources open and you lose something that's important, an important part of your strategy, Unnatural Life will at least get it back to you for 1 round, and it brings it back ready, which is very good. And if it has any when defeated things on it, you get access to that as well, which could be very interesting, especially given some of the battle droid token generators or advantage generators we've seen with some Separatist cards. So Unnatural Life is an interesting card. It's a rare, so it's going to be accessible. It'll be interesting to see what strategies people come up with. Something that has to do with Afra? Maybe. We'll find out. Next up, we have an interesting way of acquiring this specific preview. We don't have the full really good card image like we did have some other stuff, but this is from Rebel Showroom, an event that was in Spain, I believe. Link to this in the description below, but specifically comes from Vanaheim.pl over on Facebook. This is a cunning event, and it's got a fairly interesting design to it. We've seen this art before. This is Aid from the Innocent, a 5-cost Cunning Heroism Gambit event. Search the top 10 cards of your deck for 2 Heroism non-unit cards and discard them, then put the rest of the bottom of your deck in any order, or in a random order, excuse me. For this phase, you may play the discarded cards, and they cost 2 less each. This is a rare, and I believe it's number 201 out of 257 in TWI. So the idea behind this is that basically, you wing Reinforcement or Vader the top 10 cards of your deck, but rather than putting them into play immediately, you throw them into your discard pile. So you're looking for heroism non-units, so basically upgrades and events, that will further your ability to get stuff done in the round that you play this, because you get to play those upgrades or events for 2 less each. So ideally, especially if you're going to play this on 5, you're looking for 2 cards that cost 2 each or less, and you can utilize those during your phase in manners that you're going to need them. This is one of those quirky cards that might have some interesting gameplay associated with it, but right now as it stands, I don't see too much that this is going to be good with, but that could change very quickly. I think one of the previous cards that we saw, which was the Creative Thinking, is a Heroism card, which costs 2. So theoretically, if you pop 2 of those, that could be really good. There might be some Clone Trooper generators that end up being Heroism cards that cost 2 or less, whatever the case may be. You're spending a lot of resources to do something that's not going to immediately give you a benefit, so you have to really think about what's going to happen with a card such as this. It's an interesting design. It's probably going to be one of those cards that sees a lot of play going forward once we have a larger card pool with more cards that this can be useful with. But the randomness of it and the high 5 cost of it is going to be one of those things that'll probably hold it behind for now. Great art though, interesting design, and it's a rare, so you're not going to see it too much in limited. Next up, what I believe is the most expensive card we've ever seen, even more than Endless Legions, and that says something because that costs 14. This preview comes by way of DragonriderTCCG, link in the description below for that. Let's take a look at this monster of a card. We have here the Invasion of Christophesis. Pretty sure that's the accurate name. I'm not, correct me in the description below if I'm wrong. 15 cost, Vigilance Separatist Plan Event. Exploit 4, so if you sacrifice 4 units, you can reduce the cost of this by 8. Choose an opponent, defeat each unit that player controls. This is a legendary, number 78 out of 257 in TWI. Love the art here. This is an insane card, because this is effectively a one-sided board wipe. You can wipe out your opponent's board for the cost of 15. That's probably never going to happen, because if you get to that point, and you guys are still playing, you're playing a long game and you need to stop. However, being able to exploit with this means that you can drop this for 7 if you sacrifice 4 units on your side of the board. That could effectively make this a similar cost Super Laser Blast, but the fact that it does wipe out all of your opponent's units, if you have even more stuff, if you have a bunch of expendable droids, but you still have a big board of stuff, you might be able to use this Invasion of Christophesis to wipe out your opponent and just put the pressure on them of, my board's still here, your board's gone, ha ha ha. And that feels a lot better than the nobody has any units in play, so nobody gets to play the game strategy. I think this is a very interesting card. As a legendary, I don't think it's going to be super expensive, but it's going to be one of those things that probably ends up seeing a 1 or 2 cost if your Separatist deck is running Vigilance. Command Vigilance could be a pretty strong battle droid strategy. We'll have to see some of the cards that come out in the set. Hopefully there is some variation in the strategy of battle droids and clone troopers in each aspect, and each aspect combination becomes a viable deck that can be played. But otherwise, this is a nasty card. It's not just limited to Separatist strategies, because it is Vigilance, not Vigilance Villainy, just Vigilance. So be prepared for the invasion, because it's going to break you. Next up, we have a double single aspect card. This comes to us by way of Puente 3. Link in the description below to that preview. Apologize if I mispronounced that name. Let's pop right to it. We have here Manufactured Soldiers, a 3-cost double command supply event. Choose one. Create 2 clone trooper tokens, or create 3 battle droid tokens. This is an uncommon, number 102 out of 257 in TWI. Command is our big token generator for a lot of these token strategies. You'll see them in other aspects plus the morality aspects. But what the designers seem to have gone for is that if you want to play heavy token decks, you're playing it in Command. So Command Heroism is giving you Clone Trooper tokens, and Command Villainy is giving you Battle Droid tokens. This card is very interesting because for 3, you can get 4 total power and health if you choose the Clone Troopers, or 3 total power and health if you choose the Battle Droid tokens. But the Battle Droid tokens can give you a little bit more with that exploit, while Clone Troopers effectively will give you Coordinate plus 1 additional unit. So if you already have your Coordinator on the board, this gives you Coordinate immediately. If you have the resources available, you can do this, then the Coordinator, and go from there. Interesting stuff. Honestly, I think this is really good probably for the Battle Droid strategy, but not as good for the Clone Trooper strategy. I almost wish that it was 3 clones and 4 Battle Droids. I think that might be a little bit better in terms of giving the Clone Trooper a little bit more viability with that Coordinate, with getting those tokens onto the board, because you're creating tokens, but they're coming into play exhausted, so you can't do anything with them immediately unless you have some way to refresh your board, which there are some ways, but you're not doing it in double command. And the Battle Droid tokens can still be popped off the board, even if they are exhausted. So interesting card, though, only an uncommon, might see some play. Another one of those cards that I'm interested to try, much like the Clone Wars, which we'll see in a bit. It should be interesting to see how this all shakes out with the token generators. Next up, another aggression villainy card, this time from Artificery, link in the description below. We have here Confederate Tri-Fighter, a 3-cost aggression villainy space unit, 3 power, 3 health, separatist, droid, vehicle, fighter. Bases can't be healed. This is an uncommon number 132 out of 257 in TWI. This card is fantastic. A 3-cost 3/3 is about average stats for what you're going to see as a space unit. Sometimes they do come with more health, but the fact that this space is basically says bases can't be healed is an absolute godsend for the wrong aspects. A lot of the healing strategies come by way of villainy. So a villainy deck that is able to stop an opponent from healing their bases is kind of, it's not conflicting necessarily because villainy decks are going to want this strategy, but the only thing that heroism has at the moment right now off the top of my head is Wolf, and that's just a single phase type thing, and it is not aspected for that specific morality. So this is a great card. I think it's really cool. It will stifle a Ray or a Luke deck or any type of heroism deck that's going to be doing a lot of restore in that manner. But ultimately, I think this is an ability that needs to be on both sides. So we need to see a heroism version of this in order for it to be relatively balanced. But I do like the design of it nonetheless, because there's a lot of things, especially Vigilance, that can do a lot of healing that is very frustrating to play against. And this says, Next up, we have here 4 previews from an event that happened from Asmodee in Spain. And 2 of these cards were in Spanish, 2 of them were in English, but we have the translated cards. They've already been showcased as the newer versions of them. But we have some pretty interesting stuff, a character that I very much like and enjoy, a couple of different droid-centric cards. But the first card we have here is a very, very interesting design, and depending on what happens, might either see a lot of play or absolutely 0 play. Let's get right into it. We have here the Clone Wars. This is a 2-cost command disaster event. Pay any number of resources, create that many clone trooper tokens. Each opponent creates that many battle droid tokens. This is a rare number 125 out of 257 in TWI. Great art here showcasing Mace Windu and clones versus a bunch of battle droids, plus some B2s in the background. This card is one of those cards that on the surface looks really good, but once you look at it, you're like, oh wow, this actually does something for my opponent as well. You can absolutely flood the board with clone troopers with this. You can pay 10 and get 8 clone trooper tokens, but it also means that your opponent gets 8 battle droid tokens. If you have the ability to clear those out off the board really quickly, or if you, God forbid, have a Snoke on the board, it don't matter, right? Vice versa though, so don't play this into a Snoke, otherwise you're going to look like an idiot, because you are. Needless to say, the Clone Wars here is a very interesting design because it can give you some extra stuff to automatically activate coordinates, but it does threaten exploit that your opponent can use. Also, in Twin Suns, this is a historically bad card to use because each opponent creates battle droid tokens. So if for some reason you decide to pay 10 for this, you create 8 clone trooper tokens, but your other 3 opponents also each create 8 battle droid tokens. You can absolutely set up the most chaotic board state in the history of chaotic board states. I wouldn't recommend it, but if you want to do it, I want to see what somebody can do with this in Twin Suns to just be like, hey guys, don't attack me. Here's a bunch of battle droids, right? I'll probably try to play this as a 1 or 2 of in a clone trooper generation deck if there's a way that I can utilize my deck to defeat the battle droids. But much like Jesse, I think this potentially gives too much value to your opponents compared to the value that you're getting as a clone trooper generator with what it does. But who knows? This could be the thing that wins games. I'm excited to actually try to find out. Next up, we have a card that I was not expecting to see this early, especially given the way that the TV representation was for set 2. But set 3 gives us something that we've only recently seen, and I'm excited to get more support for this specific trait. I present to you Sabine Wren, You Can Count on Me. This is a 4-cost Cunning Heroism ground units, 4 power, 4 health, fringe Mandalorian Spectre traits. While this unit is exhausted, she can't be attacked unless she gains Sentinel. On attack, you may discard a card from your deck. If it does not share an aspect with your base, deal 2 damage to a ground unit. This is a rare number 195 out of 257 in TWI. This is Sabine Wren traveling on her journey to become not necessarily a Jedi, but at least someone who could handle the lightsaber better than she did before. I very much enjoyed this show as it came out, so I'm very happy to see card representation for it this early. And again, with Spectres not having gotten really too much support in set 2, having an extra Spectre card in set 3 is really neat, hoping to be able to see more in set 4, especially since that's more space-based, and the Spectres did a lot of work in space. Beyond all that, she's kind of an upgraded version of her original aggression version from set 1. Rather than require aspects to protect her, if she's just exhausted, she can't be attacked unless something throws Sentinel onto it. And then her on attack kind of fits a little bit more with Ezra, where if you attack with Ezra, you can look at the top card of your deck, see what it is, place it there, leave it, and then use Sabine's on attack ability in order to be able to deal the damage as long as you flip that, which does really help the Spectre ability, especially if you're running a lot of off-colored Spectres based upon what your deck is. So if you're running double command, you're going to have aggression, cunning, and vigilance cards that are going to be on the top of your deck, because all of those cards so far are non-command cards. And that might be a theme that they stick with for the remainder of the period of time that Spectres are being designed. So we'll have to see how that goes forward. We need more good Spectre cards. I think this is on the right track. I don't think this is better than Kanan, but alongside Kanan is actually going to be an interesting strategy. And I think that this leads more credence to play Ezra in that deck than you did before. Hopefully we can get a new Zeb or a different Zeb that ends up being a little bit better, and we can have all the Spectres happy and healthy together. But Sabine Wren, she's here. She's going to chop you with her lightsaber and hopefully not die in the process. Our next card meshes with quite a few traits that exist within the game so far. We have here Relentless Rocket Droid. This is a 4-cost aggression ground unit, 3 power, 5 health, Separatist Droid Trooper. While you control another Trooper unit, this unit gets +2/+0. This is a common, I want to say 163 out of 257. Should have looked that up beforehand, in TWI. Given that it's a Separatist and a droid, it meshes with the Separatist strategy, which probably also going to have some tertiary droid strategies as well. But the fact that it is a trooper and gains a benefit based upon another trooper and is aggression, not aggression villainy, there's a lot of ways you can stick this in a trooper deck for it to be really good. We have that Ardent Sympathizer, which gets a bonus based upon the fact that you have, if you have the initiative or not, and in the fact that that is also a trooper. We've got the Partisan and the Partisan Insurgent and Benthic 2 tubes, which both give aggression units extra bonus, which are also troopers. Meshing with this trooper strategy for aggression could be fairly interesting. At 4 costs, it's a little expensive, but a 4-cost 5/5 can be pretty nasty when it really comes down to it. So very interesting stuff. We'll see how well this works. I imagine this is probably going to be primarily a limited card, but someone might sneak a really neat trooper deck going forward with the rest of the cards that we're going to see in a very trooper heavy set, I might add. Next up, we've got Grievous's cool fighter that he uses, which technically he never actually uses in the movie, but uses in the cartoon, and it's pretty cool. We have here Solus 1, customized for Grievous. This is a 1-cost cunning villainy space unit, 1 power, 2 health, Separatist vehicle fighter. On attack, you may exhaust a friendly droid unit or General Grievous leader or unit. That's pretty unique. If you do, this unit gets +2/+0 for this attack. This is a uncommon, number 179 out of 257 in TWI. A 1-cost ship that's a 1/2, absolutely garbage. Nobody's ever going to use that, except the on-attack ability of this allows you to exhaust friendly droid units, which you're going to get a lot of tokens as a result of that, or General Grievous as a leader or a unit. You're likely never going to really want to exhaust your own unit Grievous unless there's something else that it gets a benefit of while being exhausted, but being able to exhaust the leader part is a very interesting design. If there's a turn where you don't want to drop your Sentinel droid with Grievous's ability, you can just use the Solus 1's ability to be able to exhaust him and get that 3/2 attack onto one of your opponent's units or your opponent's base. And that's a very unique design. We've seen the interaction of leader or unit with a couple of other things, Fet's Fire Spray to be specific, but nothing that really allows you to manipulate your leader in a way to give one of your units a benefit other than what the leader itself does. So this is a fairly interesting design. I don't know if this is going to see a lot of play. I'm one of the people that's unfortunately pretty down on the starter deck Grievous. I think, unfortunately, as we've gone along, the starter deck leaders have gotten worse from set 1. That's probably just because the set 1 leaders are set such a high bar, but this could be a fairly interesting design for a Grievous deck that allows you to be more aggressive than what your opponent is expecting. And if you can drop this in some sort of battle droid or battle droid token applicator on round 1 as 2 separate 1 costs, this could end up doing a lot of damage for you in the long run of a game. There you have it. Big old batch of previews. That whole first week is finished. That was a lot of cards to go through. It took 2 videos to do it. but we got them done. Really cool things. I like the Sabine. I like the Invasion. I like a lot of the different things that have come out from the creative previews and the FFG previews for what is effectively Heroism Week. There was a lot of villainy cards in there, but we like variety is the spice of life, right? Lots of cool things that are coming out, and even more stuff that's going to be covered here in the next couple of days. So thank you very much for joining me, everybody. Remember to like and comment on this video. Let me know what your favorite preview of this batch was, whether it was the FFG stuff or the creator stuff or anything you've seen so far. Make sure to subscribe to the Star Wars Unlimited YouTube channel for all of your Star Wars Unlimited needs. We've got 2 more videos covering last week's stuff, and then we're back on track and ready to go to jump right back into the next week when they slam more previews at us, because FFG loves giving us the things that we need for Star Wars Unlimited. And with that, I will see you in the stars.